Do you deem yourself as relatively successful? But are you finding yourself feeling a little bit confused because you've noticed there's an area within your life where you don't have the same confidence within yourself, and it may be quite noticeable to you? Let's discuss that. So let's begin by talking about self-esteem. Self-esteem is essential for not only our psychological growth, but also for our survival. It's what allows us to place value within ourselves. And that value that we place within ourselves will dictate how we are going to meet our own needs in life and to what level we're going to meet those needs. And it's a beautiful gift that we as humans possess, that we have this beautiful opportunity to develop on ourself and our self-esteem like no other species on the planet. And it's such a gift, but it can also be problematic. You see, by having the ability to develop ourself and our self-esteem, we have the power, the sole power, and the sole ability and the sole capabilities of building on that. And that means that we have that sole power of defining exactly who we are and where we're going to place ourselves of value. Now, like I said, sometimes that can become problematic, like when we reject a part of ourselves. Because what happens when we reject a part of ourselves and our self-esteem becomes wounded means that we then start to suffer within particular areas of low self-esteem. It damages the psychological balance. So let's just quickly explore 3 different types of self-esteem, of low self-esteem, I should say, and how that may be affecting you in the here and now. And it might start to allow you to piece together why there are only certain areas where you feel completely confident within yourself, but within those other areas that you may struggle. So let's start with characterological low self-esteem. That one's a hard one to get out. Now, within characterological low self-esteem, this one of the 3 I find is the most deep-rooted. It's very deep-rooted to our early years. It's oftentimes connected to feelings of abandonment, abuse, neglect. It weighs very heavy on a person. It's very global. So therefore, this type of low self-esteem does require very deep-rooted work. So that second form of self-esteem I'm going to talk about, which may be more relatable to you, is situational self-esteem. Sometimes you'll notice that you feel relatively confident within yourself, within many areas, but then you notice there are particular areas where you struggle. This is known as situational self-esteem, where there are only particular scenarios, environments, where you notice that your self-esteem and your confidence within yourself differs from other times. So let me give you some examples. If you're a professional, you may feel relatively confident in yourself going about your daily tasks and your daily role within your career. But you may find that if you're asked to do something different, or if it comes to going for a promotion, or even changing your role completely, you recognize that you don't have that same self-confidence and that there are barriers in front of you. Another example might be that you feel relatively comfortable and confident within your family unit, within your career, but when it comes to social situations, you really struggle. You may be an absolute killer in your career, completely confident around your family and your friends, but you may find that you're completely lost within your body and you really lack self-esteem around your body. And the thought of, for example, going to a gym absolutely terrifies you. And hence where that confusion begins. It is because your self-esteem is situational based. Now, there is one more that is attached to situational based self-esteem, and this one is conditional self-esteem. So very similar to the situational side of things, but this one is very much based on condition. And your value that you have in yourself is based within these conditions. And if these conditions are not met, then your value on yourself goes down. So you will measure your value based on, for example, how you perform at work, what your role at work is, how high up you can climb up that ladder, how fancy your car is, keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. You will measure your body and how you look against the value of yourself. So you could be a super successful person in your career, But when it comes to your body, you value yourself low and therefore you feel like you're not a worthy person. This is very much conditional based. And the same goes for your career. If I'm not within a particular role, if I don't hit certain grades or deadlines within things that I do, then I'm going to place my own value on that. And what happens when that value isn't met? We're hard on ourselves. Now, the good thing about situational and conditional self-esteem is that they are easier to work with. And the reason they are easier to work with is because they're not as global as that characterological self-esteem. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not hard to work with. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't take time to work on them, because anything to do with delving into the inner world is always going to have an element of difficulty. But what it does mean is that it's easier for you in the process to work on changing the maladaptive thought process. And that's what's happening within these situational and conditional self-esteem types, is that the maladaptive thoughts are very negative towards the self, and they are taking charge in the here and now. And because you've been relatively successful in other areas of your life, hopefully you can see why it should be easier to make the shift. But like I say, it's never an easy ride. I just said easier than perhaps those people who have to work on more characterological, because it is so much more deep-rooted and so much more trauma-based. So how about a few hints and tips on how to work with this? Well, it all comes down to your languaging. Become aware of your language around these situational areas, around these conditional areas. Look out for the negative language and start stopping yourself in the moment and changing it to a more healthy, harmonized way of thinking. Affirm to yourself daily how worthy, capable, and important you are in the process. Because remember, your life has been an abundance of affirmations. Sometimes, though, as we become older, we have to be more conscious of the affirmations that we are putting in to the life cycle of our mind. And the most important thing to remember here is any inner change will take time, will take patience, and it needs you in the driving seat to make it happen. So don't forget how important, worthy, and capable you are in this process. And of course, there are many other techniques to help you on your way to breaking free from the situational, the characterological, and of course, the conditional self-esteem that you may be suffering with. Now, if you would like to know more about this and how to break free from these types of maladaptive behaviours and thinking processes, then feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, or of course, just follow for more. Enjoy the day you create.